All right, we will call the meeting to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Waldner. Commissioner Thill.
Here.
And Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Make a motion we approve the agenda for this evening.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgements, is there anything you want removed from the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under old business, number 1, public hearing on ordinance number 1607, amend the Appendix B, zoning, fitness, and facilities. And so, since this is a public hearing, is there anyone that would like to speak on that? Chad, would you like to address that then briefly?
Yeah, I can say a few words, and perhaps there'll be some questions after that even too. This is, first in the agenda packet, you have ordinance number 1608, and then the notice that
Nope,
went in.
1607 was we're on first, on the fitness.
Excuse me, yep, wrong pages.
We're on, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, 16.
We're on the public hearing.
Yep, 1607, and then you have the notice that went in the paper for 1607. This was, excuse me, I want to make sure you don't open here. This was before the Planning Commission on March 12th, and it had first reading before you on March 18th. And what this does is modifies the zoning ordinance to add fitness facilities as principal permitted uses in the 2 business zones. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Excuse me, Central Business District and the General Business District as principal permitted uses, and as conditional uses in the Neighborhood Business District, the Mixed-Use Residential Emphasis District. Yes, and then it provides the definition for a fitness facility. The idea behind these being a conditional use in what the description of these particular zones nearer the residential is that would have to come before the board, in case it would affect properties and such like that. Affect residential properties. So they would have another opportunity to check in with that for that purpose. Long and short is this would allow these to be used in these zones, exercise facilities, in areas right now where they're not. It's not listed as a principal permitted use.
Not listed
it's
at
conditional.
all. Right.
Correct. So the proper interpretation would be that they can't be done in any of these districts. And so
right.
That's why it was brought before you from time to time. As I mentioned, I think at the first reading, people call and have an interest in looking into this parcel or that parcel or this building or that building to try to implement a fitness facility. And when we look at that, we have to look at it very carefully, and if it doesn't fit within principal permitted use or conditional use, we have to tell them no, they can't be allowed there. And so we thought it was appropriate at this time to bring it forth to the Planning Commission, the City Commission, to add this in, so it allows this use opportunity for business owners and the citizens as well.
No,
With that, I'd
very
stand
good.
by to answer any questions. And I haven't had anybody contact me with any questions at all about this.
Sounds good. Anyone else wants to speak during the public hearing portion? All right, then we'll move on to number 2, second reading of ordinance 1607, amend Appendix B, zoning, fitness facilities. And do we have any discussion from the commission at all?
It takes a while, doesn't it?
It does take a while.
Yeah, you have to have a notice in the paper about 10 days before the Planning Commission hearing, and then you have to have that hearing, and then the first reading is the week immediately after with the City Commission, and then another 2 weeks. And so this will be published, and technically it won't be effective until 20 days
20 days after today.
Well, actually after Thursday.
After
Because that's
this
when it
Thursday.
publishes.
Yeah,
That's when it
so.
publishes. So it does take, zoning amendments
take
do
time.
take some extra time. And there's 2 opportunities, for the public to come in and voice their concerns both before the Planning Commission and the City Commission. So it's a good thing, I guess. It allows the people to know what's happening.
And it brings us, to things that are changing from what they used to be, and so it's not all bad.
I couldn't find anyone that thought it was a bad idea, so
So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the second reading of ordinance number 1607 for amending Appendix B zoning, fitness and facilities.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under new business, perfect timing, Nancy.
Yep, don't sit down.
Authorize the mayor to sign the survey certification form, Madison Public Library 2018 South Dakota Public Hearing Survey. And Nancy, would you like to address this? See, your timing was perfect.
I was lucky. Thank you. This is the annual report that we are required to file with the state library. And actually, our statistics are available nationally as well. But locally, I guess the best thing that happened in the last year in 2018 was the 2 grants that we got. And we are still seeing really positive results from the work that we put into those grants. One from OCLC, the American Library Association, and the other one from USDA. So we have now a very active group of young people, the Teen Advisory Board, and they help us plan, they help us execute things, and they come up with very clever ideas. So we are just really pleased to be seeing that particular part of our business growing with those kids. Otherwise, the other thing that we struggle with most is where to put our resources. And I think that we are seeing sort of a leveling off between how much we need to put into electronic resources and how much we still need to put into paper resources. And that has been an issue for us for about 7 years now, watching to see where that is going to go. And right now it seems to be kind of stable for the last few years. So we feel a little more confident about our purchasing. Do you have any questions about all the numbers that are on the report?
No, it was very, very interesting reading through it and seeing all the different things and that, for activities and the attendance and that. The one thing I was, going to ask you in that is, you don't have one of the old first edition Harry Potter books. Did you see that, what that one sold for on the internet?
Well, yeah, I think that ours probably would not qualify. No.
Uncirculated.
Yeah.
$90,000 for one of the first Harry Potter books. And so
ours, I think our anything that we had at the beginning is worn out long ago. We've replaced those Harry Potter books multiple times.
Yes.
Yep.
I know I've seen a lot of people in that are definitely Harry Potter fans, and so I can understand that. So, but no, it was very, very impressive, seeing all the activities and the things and that do go on in the library that people don't just obviously see.
Oh, and we're having fun.
I think it would be worthwhile if you told them about probably the most significant book that we have in the archives. About the way it goes.
Yeah, we were.
If you bring this up.
Yes, absolutely.
When the library board looked at this report, they were wondering if we had any, a disaster plan in place, and we do not. We have a general one, but we need to be more specific. Because they wanted to know if there was something that we really needed to save. What do we have that's of great value? We do have one of the original copies of Old Deadwood Days. And there are not very many in existence. And ours is one of the copies that's left. It was reprinted a few years ago. The state library donated one of their copies, and what they did is they just took the whole book apart and then printed the same pages over and over and over again. So that would be...
But our copy is intact.
Our copy is intact.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it circulated for a long time before we put it in the back room, so it looks like it's been used,
Uh-huh, yeah.
and it should.
Mhm.
If it, we're not in archives. This is a library, and it's our business to circulate
Mhm.
materials.
That's
So
well said. That's well said.
Yeah.
So what would happen if you didn't put this report together?
they would start calling me. Actually, I've been getting email because I am, this is the deadline for getting this, and so I've been getting emails for the last week
Mhm.
reminding me that has to come in.
Oh, very good.
The lights look wonderful. If you have not been to see them, thanks much to the
Yeah.
department
They are
and
great.
Wool and Steel. I said, what was lines of books in a dark area, and how can really be seen, and you actually pick a book out and read it back there. It's really nice, but it didn't change the ambience of the library. You know, we maintained what we had before, so really pleased about that. Really, and we are really grateful to the library department for the help with the wiring and stuff they did for us. So.
And hopefully this summer you'll reap the benefits of that from the reduced
conditioning
air conditioning bill
Yes.
substantially.
Yeah,
Yes.
from 450 watts a lamp and that down to about 115 or so, something like that. It
Yeah.
does make a big difference on
You might have had to
that
pay a
part.
little more for heat this winter, but
Yeah.
most of that heat was at the ceiling anyway, so I don't know how effective it was.
Right.
Getting that was.
Mhm.
No longer had the arc welds going on in the lights.
Yes.
Yes.
And
The other thing that, I don't know if you mentioned, as usual, but did you talk at all about the furnace situations? What, the 10 furnace we have?
11.
11 in
Oh,
the basement?
yeah.
Mhm.
You all know
Replacements?
we have 12 furnaces.
12, okay.
Actually, we don't have that many now because Bob Maxwell said it was overkill, and so we're less than that now.
Mhm.
But the two oldest furnaces, two of the original furnaces that were put in, have failed this year. One of them heats the basement, and we would not have known that one was out, except that our pipes froze one of those really cold days, because the furnace that also was heating the front of the building was out that day too. But that one got going again, we got that one going again, no problem. The one for that controls the heat in the room where we do our story time, that one is gone. That one went in February. So we have 2 new furnaces coming shortly.
Putting in 2 new rather than reducting some that we already have, or?
Well, they don't fit very well. These are the 2 smallest ones that we have.
Okay.
And there would be no way to reduct the one down the basement because it comes out of a different place even. The one that heats the basement and the one that heats the entryway are back in the old furnace room that was the furnace room when we were still in the tiny library. And the rest of them are in that long corridor going back. So the one for the story room we have kind of going. It is Matt Huseman had saved some pieces that still worked off similar pulse furnaces, and he was able to wire one into what we have for a temporary fix. So at least we can still use the story time room for the kids if we need tonight. That's a story time. So that's working, but it's only a temporary fix, so we'll have to replace that furnace. But it's been, we knew that the life expectancy of those furnaces, those pulse furnaces, was 20 years. That's about exactly what they lasted.
20 years in 1 month is usually how they go.
And these actually went a few extras, so.
So.
I want to bring that up because it's a continuous struggle with the air conditioning and heating to, figure out how we can make that work and balance that. And you guys do a pretty responsible job with that. So thank you.
No, very good.
I also think the thing about the kids, the one night you had to kick them out of the room practically, they were having their...
Yeah, they're having such a good time, we had to kind of just keep pushing them out the door.
Closing time?
Flashlights.
Teenagers, and we're just kind of pushing them out of the door, and it's like sort of like herding cats. You get 3 of them out the door, and 4 of them turn around behind you and back to find something. So, it's wonderful. It's a great problem to have. We
It
are
is.
so grateful to those kids for coming and excited about this.
Well, and, you know, kids need places to be. You know, they do. So the library is a great one.
And congratulations on the award. I didn't get down there to see that, so.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So. All right, other questions or comments? It's all good. No questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a certification form for the Madison Public Library 2018 South Dakota Public Library Survey.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First reading and set a date of hearing for ordinance number 1608, amend Appendix B of zoning, Article 2, District Regulations. Chad, do you want to address this?
Thank you, Your Honor. I can mention a few things. Included in your agenda packet is ordinance 1608 and the notice of the hearing, or excuse me, the notice for the future hearing anticipated for April 15th, which coincides typically with our second reading, much like we did on the earlier item tonight. And then the draft minutes from the March 26th Planning Commission meeting where this was before them at their hearing. So what this is a modification to the ordinance. They're working with Mayor Lindsay and others to add townhomes to a residential zone. We have 3 residential districts. Our higher density residential district is an R20. Our medium density residential district is an R60, and then our least dense residential district is R90. So this just proposes to amend R60, and it adds townhomes up to 4 units as a principal permitted use in that R60 zone. It also changes the maximum percent lot coverage from 40 to 60%, and if I may talk about that briefly, in those 3 zones that I mentioned previously, the maximum lot coverage in the R20 district, again, which is our most dense one, was 80%. And of course it was in this zone, and it is now actually 40%, and in the R90 it's 30%. So this moves it from 40 to 60, so it's a little more density. It allows for coverage on the lot. Typically that's interpreted, and I believe it's consistent with the ordinance of the structure, with not driveways or anything for coverage purposes. And then thirdly, this adds the definition of a townhome of what that is. And you could read that in there, but in layman's terms, if you will, basically it's like a twin home. We have twin homes in our ordinance, which says that that's a joined structure with just 2 dwellings in it, and the property below, or the ground below the structure, is actually owned by the owner of that half of the twin home. But we didn't have anything that dealt with more than 2 units, and that's where this townhome unit comes in. So that's the change that was talked about at the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval as it is written here, and with that I can stand by for answering any questions or for now.
And I'll add just a little more to that. We have condos in town, and the difference between a condo and a townhome is in a condo, the owner owns the interior only. The homeowners association owns the exterior of the facility and the ground, including, the roof all the way down to the ground. In a townhome, the owner, it has a separate property description, and the person that buys a townhome owns the ground, that portion of the structure, all the way up to the roof. So that's the distinction between having a condo and having a townhome. So typically townhomes are built side by side with common walls, where condos can be a building that is multi-story because you're only buying the interior. So there are some definite, differences between them, and part of the reason that we have this put in here, we didn't have it in our ordinance. And so we have condos, but we did not have townhomes. So that also is part of the reason that we're adding townhomes. So with that, other questions?
This also opens the door for row housing.
which a townhome basically is. It's row housing because you go straight up and down, where in an apartment you may overlap, the apartment that's down below, or in a condo you may overlap, what's down below. And so townhome is a form of row housing. Sioux Falls allows up to 6. Here, most everything we have is 4, and so that's what we put in here is 4.
I believe the building code allows up to 10.
And if they were going to go more, you'd go to the R20 designation then, which then would allow 4 apartments and so forth, of higher density. So, other questions or comments?
Approved by the housing.
Oh, yeah, they loved it.
It is also the fastest growing segment that people are looking for in Sioux Falls and surrounding towns. And so when we saw that we didn't have it, this here was the opportunity for us to put it in and have it available also in Madison.
Mr. Mayor,
Is there a deficiency to this that we should consider?
I was going to mention why that's important, and that is the only thing that's available to control in development is the width of the lot. The cost of the housing is going to cost the same per square foot depending on the scale of the house, no matter what lot it's sitting on. But if you can narrow up the lot, for every running foot, there's a significant amount of money tied up in infrastructure, whether it's a street, the plumbing, for the water and the sewer, and all that stuff that goes into a development. The only thing you can control to try to reduce the cost of housing is to narrow up the lot, and this is one of the best ways to do it, is to do common wall residences. So that's why it's such a big trend, is it still allows home ownership without the high cost of having to pay for a really wide lot.
Very good. Other questions or comments?
Shared wall's good for the environment we live in too, heating and cooling.
If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to, am I acknowledging this or approving first reading? I'm going to acknowledge it. Set a date of hearing for April 15th for ordinance number 1608, amend Appendix B zoning, Article 2 district regulations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Bid number 882, review and award a bid, water main improvement project, 2019-3. Brad or Chad?
I can say a few things about that, Your Honor. Included in the agenda packet is the bid tabulation for the project. Bids were open on March 25th at 4 o'clock, a week ago today, for the Water Main Improvement Project 2019-3. It includes 2 areas of work. One is 6th Street Northeast from Egan to Washington Avenue, immediately south of the university. And then the other area is Summit Avenue from 9th Street to 11th Street, 2 separate work areas. So we've prepared plans for that work area to accomplish that work. We're replacing the full surface of the street. We're not just doing the water main over top, the street over top of the water main. And then we're doing some minor storm sewer improvements while we're there. Some ADA, as you know, when we do go through and redo streets, we have to do the ADA for the sidewalks and so on. We have 3 bidders on the project. You can see we have 93 different line items for bidding. The bids came in, they ranged from $768,000 approximately down to the low bid from Prunty Construction out of Brookings, South Dakota. The low bid was $659,503.35. We have worked with Prunty in several years, probably, actually I think back 3 consecutive years prior to this year, and we have a good working relationship with them. I think they do a good job, and we're satisfied with their work. So I would recommend that we award this bid to Prunty Construction of Brookings, South Dakota.
Is his 8-inch C900 price right? It's like $20,000 less than the other ones.
my answer would be yes, because I know there was no corrections made in the numbers checking of the spreadsheet here, and so I have to find it here. But
$29.
Item number 64.
yeah,
What happens sometimes is that even though something is bigger,
yeah,
the more popular it is, the less time it sits on the shelf, the less time they have invested in it, the cheaper they make it. So I learned that in the auto parts business. You'll find a seal that's this big for a truck, and they sell millions of them, and they're $10, and you find a little bitty seal that goes into something else, and it's $25. It's based on how fast you sell it. The time value of money.
Just found that interesting.
yeah, that's not a negligible
Mhm.
difference between the other two bidders. The other two were within $1,000 or so, yeah.
Yeah, and as you go through it, there's ups and downs,
There are.
depending on which area and that they're looking at, so.
In the budget for this, it comes from several different places in the budget, some from street.
Street
Even street
water?
water, I guess. It was $730,000 in the budget, so we have, feel very comfortable with that number, and that will even provide some contingencies should there something come up, which oftentimes it does, so.
Would you consider adding more to the
No.
project?
It is, I mean, small stretches here or there, I'm just kidding, Commissioner Corbin, but.
No, that's-
It
was
is,
funny.
once you get a project scoped and phased and bid, particularly at this late stage, minor changes nearby, perhaps, but it's just, it's not as conducive to make significant changes. So it's probably, we'd be better served to, if there's some adjacent nearby, particularly if there's a project of any size, to put that in our work plan and our scope for future projects and just deal with it at that time. The other thing is, even the contractor just lining up the phasing and the traffic control and notifying landowners, it usually doesn't lend itself that well at this stage anyway.
750 is what you had budgeted?
7:30.
7:30.
What are we gonna do with all that money?
Period.
And oftentimes, there's a surprise, as we found out, in other projects, so. All right, other questions or comments?
On that, going on up to 11th, you gonna do the whole street, take down, because on the west side, it's up about 1.5 feet above the curb. The water has pushed our blacktop and stuff up. Are they gonna take that on down and put that?
The whole street surface. We've used the term of the utility project, and that's oftentimes where we try to retain the curb and gutter without disturbing them. Now, there are patches of curb and gutter that we're replacing in here, but it's not a reconstruction or even to the scope where we're taking out all the curb and gutter. So we're retaining the curb and gutter, but we're taking out all the asphalt surfacing.
Okay.
Did you tell that street it was being replaced? It's really falling apart.
Yes, it's angry right now. You drive on it.
It
Yeah.
is.
So,
Summit, isn't it? What is
Summit.
it?
Summit, yeah.
and it gets a lot of traffic, because that's a direct route right to the community center,
Yeah.
so.
When's the completion date?
I believe, I said that, I apologize for not knowing exactly, but I believe the end of August. So we made it a shorter window to, in 2 different phases, with each a separate, each has a separate day count, but I believe overall it's in late August. One thing I wanted to do is try to get by the
Before
college.
football.
Yeah, and that too, yeah. So it should be winding up and shouldn't have to deal with cold weather asphalt and such like that. Contractors very comfortable with their bid and the timelines, and then of course they have to when you put it in the specifications. But
Yeah, they've done a nice job in the past, so I don't anticipate any issues on this one.
yeah, I'm hoping we continue that pattern.
Yeah. Other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve bid number 882 and award to Prunty in the amount of $659,503.35. What else do I need to say? for Water Main Improvement Project 2019-3.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do we have any public comment?
That's it.
All right, seeing no public comment. Announcements, and that, there is a mayor's forum on tomorrow night, 6 p.m., Madison High School. And election the following Tuesday on April 9th.
Can we write
Yes, sir.
names in?
You can,
Can
Chad,
what?
by way of announcement,
Yeah.
you finish this?
go for it.
The purchase of seating on Washington, did we delay some of that? Was that last year that we said we couldn't quite get it finished?
Center Street?
Center Street, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Center
indeed.
Street?
We do.
When will that start again, do you know?
We
I've
left
had a
it-
couple people ask me, so by way of announcement, if it.
We left it up to the contractor to start, but once he does start, he has 30 days to have everything
Okay.
done.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's
always
okay,
get the
I
dates
just
wrong,
wanted
but
people,
think-
I knew they were gonna pick it up again, I wasn't sure if we
I
had, but
believe
it's
it
a
was
30-day window.
correct. I believe we
Okay.
set the end of May, but I don't
So
hold me to
persons
that.
who are part of that project, they're seated, that will still be done, is the most
Correct,
important
yes.
thing.
It'll
that I
all
like
be
to
seated,
acknowledge.
we retilled and seeded,
Okay.
and
And the manholes and the valves brought up to grade?
we have to make any adjustments. Sometimes with winter, they're settling, but even before that, there's always things that the contractor doesn't get just right. Punch list items, we already had some manholes on that punch list already, and so we'll have to address some of those as well.
I think after this winter, people are ready to see some green, so they. And then Nancy said that, I was gonna ask her about that one cold day we had this winter. Pipes froze, I said, one cold day.
All
Oh,
Thank you.
Very good. All right, seeing no executive session, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.